How you doing? This is Sean McVay with Sean's Outdoor Adventures, and in this video I'm going to address some broadhead issues, some broadhead preferences, and a lot of people ask me questions about this type of stuff, so I'm just going to lay it out there for you. In particular, I'm going to compare and contrast some Rage versus like a G5 or Bishop Archery type of fixed blade broadhead. In this one right here is a generic Rage that you can get from Amazon for 12 for like $17. Here is a plastic broadhead someone sent me and asked me to check out. I did a video on that. I am going to tell you about these and share some links for examples. And I'm holding a whole bunch of broken arrows. Let me set some of this stuff down so I can talk at this stuff one at a time. First, I'm going to address Rage broadheads. This is a Rage broadhead, a chisel point that I shot through a deer this year. And I wasn't sure if maybe the blades failed or something. It was about an 8-yard shot. I was 20 feet up in the air. I shot the deer, top of the shoulder blade. It came out the armpit down here. Not a speck of blood. There was maybe a few tiny little pieces of blood in the whole way the deer ran it. It was in the snow. So I actually had to just track the deer to where the deer died. And as you can see, the arrow didn't pass through and it ended up breaking. And in fact, just about every deer that I shot with a Rage style broadhead this year cost me a whole arrow. So, Rage or not magic, some people, I just was exchanging comments with somebody on another video I made addressing this type of a topic. They're not magic. They don't always give you an awesome blood trail. Some people have had great experience. I know a lot of guys who have written to me and said they will never use a Rage again. I have had some deer with great blood trails. One of these deer that I shot here this year, the exit hole, it was probably like an 18-yard shot. The exit hole was slicing, so it was like 6 inches long right here, and a nice blood trail. So it really just depends. I've had deer that I've hit perfectly. This 8-pointer right here, I will link the actual hunt in the description section of this. Smoked that deer. I mean, perfect shot. Went all the way through the deer. The arrow bounced off the ground. Perfect pass through. Perfect location right behind the shoulder. The deer ran about 45 yards and died. There was not one speck of blood as far as the blood trail. I knew where the deer died, so I was able to find it. So again, Rage are not magic, and I used to professionally guide. We lost more deer that were hit with these than any other broadhead. There's a lot of times if you hit like a shoulder blade, you'll get a lot of superficial blood from the muscle, real heavy duty blood trail for about 60 yards, and then it'll shut off like a light switch. Now I'm going to compare and contrast real Rage to fake Rage. So this is a Rage Tripan, and as you can see, the blade is hanging out there. I don't like these Rage Tripan because of the little clip that holds the blades in place. They have just broken on me consistently, and I've ended up using up all the extra ones they give you, and this one broke. This is a brand new broadhead, and I ran out of these little replacement things. So right now, I can't even use it unless I go buy replacements. Some people may have not had trouble with it, but I have. I've a foam in the head of my quiver, and I've really sliced it as best I could so that it wasn't causing a problem. But sometimes when you'd be putting it in, even though it's sliced open, it would still cause it to spread and break. This is a generic Rage. I was a little worried to try it, but just out of curiosity, I did shoot a deer with it this year. I did not get a pass through. It was a perfect shot. I ended up finding this and not the other end of the arrow. So it did cost me an arrow. It was a perfect shot. Great blood trail. The deer died within 25 yards of where I shot it. So it did work well. But again, you have the penetration issue. So you have limitations in penetration with a Rage style broadhead. Let me just pick up a Rage. So here's a Rage. Here's a G5 Montec. I'm going to give you an example here. This buck right here I shot as a non-resident. It was shot in Iowa. The deer came out about 21, 22 yards away and was slightly quartered toward me. So in order to get the best vital hit, I intentionally clipped the shoulder blade going in to make sure my arrow stayed in the lungs. Because if you shoot slightly quartered towards you behind the shoulder, you're going to exit through the liver or the guts. And sometimes those blood trails are not as good. And depending on how steep the angle it is, it could take the deer a long time to die. So to make sure I got all vitals up in the shoulder blade, I went through the shoulder blade like it was butter, threw the deer into the ground like 6-7 inches. So great penetration. Shot a deer, actually the same hunt that I shot the fake rage, I shot a deer with the G5 on the same hunt. This arrow passed through the deer, went into the ground like 8 inches. This did not pass through the deer and the arrow snapped in half. So if you're spending like $12 an arrow like I am for just the arrow, not including the broadhead, you're spending, 10, 15 bucks just to shoot a deer and throw it away. Throw that money away because you can't reuse the arrow. This year I shot a 9-point here in Iowa. Here's the rack. I could, provide a link for this video as well. Almost identical shot angle as this deer. Clipped the shoulder blade. Did not get, it was a Rage Tripan, did not get the greatest penetration. The arrow was sticking out of the deer by about 8 inches. And I watched the deer die. He ran about 40 yards and died. However, broken arrow. And, so the point is I've been very effective shooting with a fixed blade and have had the deer die in sight. I've had the deer die in sight with the Rage. They're okay, but they're causing me to spend more money because I'm breaking arrows because you're not getting pass-through shots. So folks, there is the take on it. Now I also have just recorded a video. This is a plastic broadhead, a fan, or I don't even like to call it fans. People who watch my videos, they watch my videos. Somebody who watches my videos sent me this plastic broadhead and said, hey, I think you could hunt with these. So I shot one of these into a shoulder blade just to test it out, and it pretty much crumbled. I will provide a link for that video. I haven't put it together yet, but I'll put that together, provide a link for it. I will provide links for all these deer. I will provide a link for this deer, shot with a Rage, pass-through shot, not a speck of blood. This deer, I could provide a link for that. I shot that with a Rage, great blood trail, but I watched the deer die as well. Shot this with a Montec, blasted through the deer, easy blood trail, watched the deer die. Shot this one with a Montec, went about 60 yards and died. I had no blood trail on this one either, though. I mean, it was a perfect shot, but it was a little bit, this one was a little high lung. So if you hit high in the lung cavity, it just fills up the lungs. And those, no matter what broadhead, you don't get the greatest blood trail. I mean, a lot of these deer. I mean, I shot with all different kinds of broadhead. This here was a Rage. I watched that deer die. So, the point is, they're not magic. Some people like them, some people don't. They're okay. One last advantage of a expandable is that you don't have to worry about bow tuning as much. If my bow is not perfectly tuned, I can't shoot the G5 because I get funky arrow flight. I can shoot a Rage or an expandable when things are slightly out of tune and still get the arrows to hit where my field points are. So that is one. I will keep some of these on hand, like some of these. This is the generic one. I still have some of these. I'll keep them on hand. If I'm ever in a situation where I got to go on a hunt and the bow goes out of tune for some reason a little bit and I don't have time to mess with it, if I have to, I'll use that. So there you have it, folks. A little bit of a takedown on that. You love them, you hate them, whatever. There are advantages and disadvantages to both. God bless you. Thanks for tuning in.